Okay, so just a technical issue there. So just very shortly, welcome to the 2022 January 26th Wednesday morning edition of the Joint Food Ontology Discussion Group. And we've moved on from a possible schedules change item into the main fray, which is discussing what we should do with the coming months. I think first off, I know for sure that a great discussion could be had about kinds of recipe. Now that we're toying around with this recipe model from a technical sense, it can be it can be just part of a broader discussion about recipes. And I know, Andrea, you're in a position to lead that discussion. I'm wondering if you're ready to pick a particular month and slot to discuss that in, barring scheduling issues, and whether you perceive that that could be something that could take a couple of months, and what kind of time you might want.
No, we could do it also sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm open to to different time frames. So even March, like March 30th, for example, from what I see here.
Mm-hmm. So would you like to just say to everybody a little bit about what you have in mind about this topic? And
okay, well, no, maybe you could also tell me what it is that we could that we should do, in the sense, would you like me to talk a bit about more the philosophical side, or then problems with with the formalization? What it is that they think would be most useful?
yeah, so I know from my own side, it's a bit more of a learning exposure. And so whatever you say is interesting, but perhaps just describe both those things a little bit more to everybody and get some feedback about what people want, need.
Yes, okay. And I can also put, since there was a book on recipes that just came out, so we do a little bit of advertisement. Now it's not, you can find also preview of the volume, a second, here.
Yeah, there would actually be a little bit of reading material for this episode.
Oh, and so here I just put in the chat a volume that I edited that just came out, and there is one chapter that they also wrote that is a bit more introductory, and this could be something more philosophical. So what it looks at are different, let's call them conceptual problems that thinking about recipes might give rise to. Okay, so yeah, you can see there the thing, and then here is you can find the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could stay more on this on this side of things and describe more some of the conceptual issues that philosophers have been explored, are exploring in connection to understanding recipes. Or instead, I could look, could do more of a comparative work, or I could look at ontologies that include recipes, what they have done, and then discuss how some of these other philosophical ideas, not only philosophical ideas, but some of these conceptual aspects could be embedded into those ontologies. And you could also, suggest specific ontologies that maybe I should discuss. In this second option, maybe in March is still fine. Perhaps if I had a little bit more time, it could be better. It just depends what is, what could be best to discuss.
Well, I'm interested, Yusashi, do you have I know you have an interest in recipes and the cultural representation and for other demographics and that kind of detail. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think the philosophical aspect is definitely interesting, and um, actually I was unaware, and I'm sure most of us are unaware of how culture plays a huge role when we are talking about recipes. And I was interviewing people, I was interviewing students in Europe, and the students were from different parts of the world. I was getting a feedback on what type of food they prefer, and I got a lot of information that were new and amazing. So the philosophical aspect of recipe is very interesting, and I can share some data that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the the data that I had collected during these interview sessions while I was visiting University of Trento in 2018. And yeah, that is one aspect. The second aspect that you said about the ontology, so actually this is in line with what I was planning to discuss today, that as a food scientist or being part of this food science curator group, food and related aspects are booming, and recipe is one. And there are several ontologies, classification systems for recipe and more. So I am interested to propose something that will address all the knowledge-based systems that are dealing with food, and recipe comes under that. And yeah, so I maybe I'm talking too much, and I don't know whether I'm making sense.
Oh, this is perfect. So my only question, I see your hand, Matthew. My only question is whether we've got 2 consecutive sessions or 1 longer session or 2 longer sessions out of all of that. It sounds like a lot of material. Matthew, I know you just did an IC Foods video with Robert, and tell us what you'd like to see as well in this.
Well, of course, Robert Danhai is top of mind when this comes up. And I'm wondering the degree to which maybe we want to think. I know that this group is dedicated to building out ontology for food, but there are, what does it look like to have ontologies about food also integrated into technologies that can inform their development? And so the reason Robert Danhai, for those of you who don't know him, is front of my mind listening to Usashi is because he's developed essentially an app on phones for recording food experiences, for recording flavor experiences and annotating them. And so, and annotating all kinds of different aspects about that food and flavor experience, including the cultural and environmental contexts in which they occur, as well as flavor outcomes. So I think it would be interesting to the degree to which we could have that sort of, not to carry the food analogy too far, but as sort of seasoning layered on top of the discussion of ontologies would be the what are the tools that we can use to help us essentially gather information that we would like to ontologize and be able to compute over, and then turning that into a virtuous cycle where the ontologies can then enable the compute over those same resources that we were talking about. I hope I wasn't talking in circles too much.
So yeah, clarify that a little bit for me. So Robert has created this app for sort of capturing food experience, but my guess is it isn't particularly ontologized.
Right.
Right. So we could be really bringing our minds into what it would take to organize those descriptors, basically, that whole descriptive space.
Yes.
Okay.
The essentially the flavor and experience outcomes and the feelings you get, plus the cultural and environmental context in which those food experiences occur.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just, people feel free to write better notes than me. So I think that sounds like a whole session in itself. And where I'm thinking is where we left off with the wine group. We just didn't really have the somatic sense, the quality descriptors there. So I'd be very interested to sort of maybe pair that if Robert has, if there's a wine dimension to his stuff. Do you happen to know?
There isn't a wine dimension to his stuff, but I can tell you related to that that I have a meeting with Robert and the director of the Fermentation Association next week.
Okay.
To talk about ontologizing fermentation in general. What do those more abstract classes look like?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm starting to see that maybe we should coalesce the year around topical months. So fermentation and Duccio, you've got your hand up on that one.
Correct. No, I wanted to say to Damien that we are now submitting a work on Parmesan and Kefir, the one we were discussing, but we are extremely interested into the working on together with wine fermentations. I think wine is a model that deserves an ontology on its own, but in general, I agree that fermented foods are of great interest in the field, and I am in if you're going into this direction. I really think I can contribute to this with Francesco.
Okay, I'm turning to everyone now to lead these sections, and I will just chip in a tiny little bit, but I'm very happy to have you guys lead these and ask for volunteers, resources, and structure around all of this. But let's take each of these months then as sort of an organizing point on it all.
Can we look at May? And I'm gonna suggest that Magali, Duccio, and I coordinate for a session in May. Does that sound all right, Magali and Duccio?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Yes, okay for the challenge with my English.
I think
yes, definitely, it's very interesting to have a general modeling for both solid and liquid food.
Yeah.
Okay.
The good news is I think I'll be in Europe at that time, so the three of us maybe can have a sit down and talk about fermentation while we consume some fermentation.
Mm-hmm.
In order to prepare.
You guys have so much going on that I'm wondering, just a straw sample here. Do people want to move this to be at least an hour and a half long into the year for whichever sessions you want, or even 2 hours? Maybe some sessions are even 2 hours long, but moving up to an hour and a half. That's a question on my mind. I think quite a number of these would benefit from an hour and a half. So, okay, so I'm seeing some hesitation there.
If the idea is to have
there's some
different agenda,
calendar collisions. Maybe that's actually a question that can only be posed when you're actually looking at these new possible hour slots. So, okay, let's delay that for particular sessions. If you want more time, just say so in the slot. Okay. Okay. So fermentation for at least one session. maybe what we do is we allow any empty sessions to take on like fermentation to the return and all of that as we're populating the calendar. So this one sounds more solid, so I'll just pop that into bold. We're dedicating that. Andrea, if you're barring calendar issues, March 30th sounds fairly confident. We would have to know what Robert is actually available for Matthew. So I guess we could reach out to him before settling on a date.
Yeah, I'll ping him. I'll send him an email right now.
Okay. So in terms of fermentation modeling, this brings up the wine ontology subgroup potential. And maybe that fermentation modeling meeting is where we start to organize a wine ontology group if needed. And then folks can go off and encourage other people to join that.
Well, who's catering?
Right. Right. Now, what else is on the list? Yes. So we have somebody new on the group call today, and that's Bernd. Bernd, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you're involved in and maybe what you'd like to talk about? Oh, we need your audio.
Yes, sorry. Well, welcome. I feel welcome to this group. My background is in formal methods in AI, ontology, modeling, and I'm associated with the University of Bremen. There is a big group on robotics, on actual robots doing cooking, and they have been developing a large ontology controlling the robot. I myself am also associated very much with DFKI, German AI Center, and I have developed a large ontology around food, about 20,000 axioms and so on, quite in parallel to the food on activity. In fact, I was sidetracked to ontological devices like generic ontology design patterns recently, and haven't been keeping up with the development in food so much. So I'm intrigued by what's been happening, and I would very much like to join whatever we have produced here with food on. So that's the intent, and I think we can contribute several things. One thing, one track sort of is the ontology and robotics, but there are other things that I would like to contribute. Generic ontology design patterns for change management, perhaps, and other things that have to do with the technicality of ontological modeling more than perhaps the application to food initially. So I wonder, is there a sort of a subgroup on the ontological modeling aspects here in food on, or
Well,
on this in this general panel? That's my question.
Right, I'll answer that very quickly. So there's a food process modeling group, and we do have this food process paper in the hopper. And so that touches very much on Obo Foundry style modeling and comparing that with some other schools of thought. Right. But what I would say is, in terms of more technical modeling and state-based system stuff, we're interested, because the food industry modeling and robotics, all that kind of stuff that you're doing is of great interest to me anyway, as I'm sure others. But Obo Foundry itself has although it doesn't have a technical or engineering end dedicated to that, what it does have is a Cobb ontology, which is trying to bring together modeling concepts that lots of people can reuse. So I would say there's an outlet there as well for the kind of stuff you just mentioned.
Well, perhaps we can discuss this separately, the two of us. But I would, what concerns the food stuff, I've been working on qualitative grading that is achieving granularity in ontologies, and this might have a bearing on what is happening here, reflecting on qualitative composition and qualitative recipes and so on. I would like to perhaps present what we have been doing at some point. Well, maybe April or something like that. I don't know. March has been taken. And the other thing is, in general, the cooking and processing, where I think there are some advantages on having actually a relation. I was listening at your last meeting just now, and the relation from input to output really has some advantages that can be taken advantage of, let's say. Okay, so there are several things that I think might be interesting. And if we, well, in general, if we target for April, maybe we can either combine several of these things together in one session, or depending on the offline discussion that we might have, separate these presentations into several occasions.
Okay, that sounds great. I think, yes, I want to stuff this year, and we've got the whole year to play with, so we can spread things out a bit.
Yeah, so we might start in April then, yes.
Right. Okay. Now I want someone else new to introduce themselves. Michaela, put you on the spot. And if you could say a few lines about what you're interested in. And that actually makes me think we should all give everyone a few lines as well about our focus areas. I mean, it's sort of coming out here in this discussion, but for the new folks, I think it would be appreciated. So Michaela, if you happen to be listening and not fetching a coffee.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great.
I'm even turning on my camera just for you.
Okay.
So hi. Yes, so I'm also at the University of Bremen, and working with robots too. So my focus more, or started in creating knowledge graphs about non-food products. So basically, we are working with the supermarkets here, and we want to have actionable knowledge for robots about product ingredients, right? And this is missing. So yeah, that's what I started working on, and I slowly worked myself into the food direction. Yeah.
So what's very easy to be fascinated by to everybody is Michaela did a project that had a kind of a virtual reality component where people could walk down shopping aisles of a store and get layered on visually topical information based on areas of the store, and then all sorts of other
yes, exactly. Yeah, we are trying to visualize the knowledge. So I'm working on a lot of applications in AR, in VR, or with the robots. Yeah.
So I would love to see from you guys a presentation that allows us to get up to speed about what's happening in the robotics and AI and visualization area one of these months.
Yeah, sure. Then I would prefer to be a little later.
Okay.
So
should I just like roughly pencil you in, or would you want to come back a little bit later to figure out what's the spot?
I mean, June sounds okay. End of June.
Okay, that would be great.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes,
Sure.
Maybe
nice to meet
yourself.
you, Michaela and Bernd. I am working in France, in RAE. But my question is on what kind of product have you been dealing with? If it is not food, what kind of?
It's called Knowledge for Retail. It's a huge project here in, we started it here in Germany. It's together with DM. Do you know the DM chain? No, right? It's like a drugstore chain.
Okay,
so
it's manufactured product. It's manufacturing, processing, or not?
No. It's drugstore, like you know, like you have medical products or beauty products and all this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a small supermarket.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So because I've heard that you say supermarket, so I was
yes, but we specialize on the small ones because the big ones usually have big systems too. But the our idea is to also offer this service for bookstores or you know, small chains, bakeries.
Okay, it has more to do with logistics.
Not really, but you can also use services for logistics. No, but it's like you can browse for products with certain ingredients without fragrance, or I don't know, that don't harm the environment. Or I mean, you know, people are shopping very individual. So yes, so this was the intent for all these AR applications. So you can use your smartphone to scan a QR code for a store, load the map, and then you can search for, I don't know, the cheapest juice or store brand products or very specific complex questions. And then
so it is more like a sorting process. You have to sort things. So you will explain this.
Yes, I will explain this.
I will be very interested to know what kind of robotics is behind.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and that makes me think I can pair what you have to say up with some very interesting work by another fellow who's done a supply logistics system for food traceability and allowing manufacturers to adjust their formulas and suppliers of ingredients for products, and with a heavy emphasis on generating labels and doing the GS1 compliance for traceability and so on. So that would probably pair up nicely.
Yes, we are also working with GS1 standard.
Okay, great. So I will put that into the same June slot tentatively. I'll follow up with Horia about that. Okay, over to well, I did say folks, introduce yourselves a little bit for the new folks. Let's handle that in this informal way that that anyone else want to chip in with a presentation idea right now, and then if so, Kate, yes, want to introduce yourself just a little bit and then talk about your presentation stuff.
Sure. I'm an information scientist, and I'm working on the WikiFCD project, where we're creating a knowledge graph of previously published food composition data from anywhere in the world that we can source it. And the graph is stored in a Wikibase instance, which is the same software used for Wikidata. And we've systematically mapped it to Wikidata. And we recently incorporated food IDs into WikiFCD. And so I'd love a chance to speak at some point this year and demo where the system is currently.
That's great. And you've just submitted another proposal for work, is that right? Did you get that in the door?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. So yes, I'm pretty excited about this because one of the issues with low and intermediate income nations is that often they can't afford their own technology for food composition databases. And so they're just making use of spreadsheets. And this raises the bar on what's possible, both in the data itself and in integrating it with other information. Okay, do you have an idea, Kate, of what time, when you'd like to go?
I'd be happy with July, but if nobody else takes February, I would even be fine for February.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll just put.
Damien, what are you saving February for?
Well, I've just heard July was sort of favored, but you know, nothing. Did you have an idea for February, or should we move Robert up to February, or?
No, I'm really anxious to hear Kat's update. I don't want to wait till July.
Okay.
Strictly being selfish here.
Right.
I just love that project, and I really want to hear more about it, especially if it's tied to food on terms.
Right. There's another wonderful opportunity in the wind, it sounds like, which is the periodic table of food project. Cigar agency is leading the ontology side of that, and they want to use food on for the 1,000+ foods that are going to be mass ultraspectroscopy analyzed for nutrient content and non-nutrients and so on. So that would be kind of a neat thing to pair up with your project, Catherine, because I think your project is really putting in place the survey mechanisms to find out what people are eating. Is that right? As well as the sort of national food composition database or regional food composition database content?
Yeah, we haven't gotten to actually capturing data from people yet, but that
we can't hear you.
Future.
Right. Say that again.
Oh, sorry. We haven't gotten to capturing data from food intake yet, but that's in the future.
Right. Was that part of one of the capabilities of your new project proposal? Is that right?
Yeah, if that proposal were to be successful, then we would be building out a food tracking application.
Okay. Just curious, when do you hear back on that one?
Probably not for 4 to 6 months.
Right. Okay. So we won't hold our breath July 27th about that. But anyway, I think it's wise to just start thinking within the group about that capability. And hopefully it works out for your project. Okay, thank you, Catherine, Kate. Do we have other people who want to claim presentation? In the group? What we can do is do some rolling stuff later. We'll keep the rest of the year empty because there are always folks who show up wanting to take an hour or so. Okay, so from that perspective, yes, the other connection actually is we'll want to hear back from CDNO. They're going to be releasing a new paper soon that will really help concretize the collection of nutritional data components. So I'd like to see if maybe they could present alongside Wiki FCD. And so that may control which month they are involved in. I'll just put a question mark on CDNO. I know they presented last year, but what I'm interested in is the particulars of their database for nutritional content.
I think what is interesting with CDNO is that they want to make the link with the methods and of analytical methods to obtain the data.
So I will send out an email to them. Of course, the whole scheduling thing allows them to participate more easily. They may wish to actually present later because of the paper not being out yet. There's a number of people I wanted to send their paper to, but it's still in draft form. So that's actually an argument for putting them down here. Okay. All right. Just check. Visualization. Okay, there were actually a couple of comments that people had popped in to this document that I thought we could also clean up during this meeting. And I see you're adding things. Some of these comments speak to past activity on issues that we didn't necessarily get to or address. So Lauren dropped a comment way back when we were discussing dietary patterns. And now I'm thinking maybe, actually, I'll just ask Lauren if she wants to make an issue out of this over in ONS.
Potentially, sorry, I'm just rereading this. I was like, wow, this was a long time ago.
Right.
Yeah, let me reread it and then I can try and make an issue out of it.
Okay,
Thanks.
that would help. Okay, and then you can close it here or call it resolved here. And maybe this one as well. Makes sense now to take some of these things out to the ontologies themselves. And in terms of food allergies and disease, that actually makes me think we could benefit from a mini presentation from Randy Vita, who works a bit with the DOID, the disease ontology folks, in talking about food allergens. And the granularity at the moment that DOID has about what parts of a food can cause allergy is a bit vague. Right now, an allergy can be linked to a celery food product, but it's not actually linking to the particular chemical or enzyme or whatever. So it seems to me we could actually have a session on food allergens. Does that sound like a good idea? Bring some folks in to talk about that.
We can also add non-food allergens. I've been working on those.
Is that right?
Yes. Yes. I mean, not maybe not into that much detail, but yes.
So clarify for me what the scope of it is.
Like ingredients that can cause contact dermatitis, for example.
Okay.
You know.
Just at the moment, I'm not even seeing who's talking.
Oh, Michaela, it's me. I turned
okay.
off.
Okay. All right. So sure. All right. So I will pop that into the schedule. And I'm not sure when that happened, but I'll connect with the folks. I'm forgetting the name of their database at the moment, but Lloyd as well. Okay. I'm wondering, Francesco, if there's opportunity or need to revisit the diet and nutrition ontology. I'm curious about whether you've had some uptake through Endopassi.
Yeah, Damian, I think Francesco and I should probably add another participant to the community. Francesco, maybe you can do the proposal.
Yes, let's say in ONS, there hasn't been much addition on the diet and dietary pattern, let's say, side, beside what we already presented at the food ontology workshop. But we have to acknowledge, let's say, that ONS is actually has some problem in formality and correct way of expressing axioms. So for the reason I think we will try to collaborate more strictly with one a researcher which is already collaborating with us on another project, which is Panchepanov. I think it was not in the food work group, but it was it's revolving around, let's say, the ontology community. As he has an actual IT background and the ONS started from biologist, I think in this way we can manage to fix some problem which are both formal but also in the expressivity, for example, of some maximization. So we will extend the invitation to him if it's okay with you, and we will try to involve him all the more and even more into the development of the ONS.
Okay, great. And this, so look forward to having him participate, and it'll, and I think it sounds like then this person, sorry, what was his name again?
His name was, I don't know if I'm spelling correctly.
Panchepanov.
He works at the same institute of Tome Eftimov, which one some time ago had a presentation inside here.
Okay.
It was in another group, but they are collaborators more or less in the same institute. And we are collaborating with Duccio, with both of them for an European project. So we came in contact. We are doing some ontology development over the, let's say, standardization of metadata in metagenomic study repositories and databases. And so from there, we are trying to have its collaboration in a more, let's say, set way.
Yeah, the big project that Francesco was referring to is this food and nutrition science cloud. That is trying to apply, the FAIR standards to the existing data sets on omics, on nutrition. trying to link the databases currently flourishing in the public domain on food and nutrition data sets, in particular intervention trials and observational trials, and using ontologies to describe the experiments and make them really searchable and then reusable. So it's, you know, a bunch of interesting words, but in the end, it's a very complicated task because we knew it already, but we continue to realize that biologists, they have the fantastic habit of describing studies with lay language only. It's very tough to be able to include an ontology. So we are creating a community of curators within the consortium. And we're trying to mix, you know, biologists and computational people. And both Tome Edfimov and Pan Chepanov are giving an interesting contribution. So I think they might contribute interestingly also to our discussion team.
Okay, great. I'm glad to hear that. I'm actually on the external advisory board of FNS Cloud. So you're telling me more about this than I knew. I haven't really heard from the project in the last year. So great to hear that. Okay, so that is good news. And it reminded me of one other topical area, which is that I was just talking with Susan Mitchie and others of the behavior intervention ontology, and they're coming up with a model of process, sub-process, process aggregation. And so they've actually got a bit of a formal model that's going to be published soon around behaviors like smoking and eating that are episodic and that happen sort of in a patterned fashion. So it might be an opportunity to have them as well present that kind of stuff, which is part of this whole modeling of how much nutrition people are actually taking in and what kinds. Okay, other closing comments by people?
Damien, if you scroll down to page 6, the page right after the one you're currently seeing, there's a floating agenda section. And it says maybe a January 22 call on this. So I wanted to make sure you saw that one.
Oh, right. Yes, right. Thank you. So this idea of a food system review paper and the paper that Matthew had in mind around clarifying vocabulary in industry. Matthew, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was unmuted and I was clacking on my keyboard. I hope I wasn't disturbing other folks.
No, didn't hear.
Oh, good. My mic is working well then. Yeah, I guess I'm going to kick the can down the road just a little bit longer on that one, simply because bandwidth issues, personal bandwidth. But I do see it as actually being really, really important, especially as it will come alive for me in a very real way. And I'll just give you a little update. So I think a lot of the folks know that I'm involved in this new AI institute called Icicle. And one of the projects on that is essentially building a visualization environment for knowledge graphs related to smart food sheds. So food sheds being food systems in a regional area, so that we can query what do we eat, where does it come from, what do we produce, where does it go, what gets wasted along the way, who's involved, what are the magnitudes of the resources and foods that they're moving through the food system, things like that. So there's that sort of aspect, but we don't have a way of capturing all of those interactions yet in any kind of food systems ontology. So having a review of not just what's out there, but the various perspectives that people have, and how that shapes the way they view those issues, but also even indicators about how well they're progressing and addressing certain types of issues, things like that. I will mention a little plug, since you gave me the opportunity, Damien, that we do, both of us have workshops coming up in March at the US Semantic Technology Symposium. And in fact, our group, and when I say our, so you and I know of each other's proposals, but they're separate. And our workshop, I'll let you talk about yours, is related to building an ontology, essentially brainstorming essentially and workshopping this idea of a regional food systems, smart food shed ontology with an eye towards sustainability and resiliency.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Can you put a link to its page?
Yeah, they haven't released that yet on the.
So one thing Handy was saying was they're pausing to try to assess what the COVID situation would be, and they're still trying to make a go no go decision about whether it would actually happen, because they want it to be physical between people. They want people to fly out there. And
that's not going to happen. I mean, it needs to be. I mean, that's just. I think
so, but
that's just silly.
But
it just needs to be hybrid, or
I know. So whatever the situation is, it sounds like they're holding back a little bit on the official announcement of what it would look like, or whether there might even be a delay. So we'll have to wait here from them. So I guess that's why the links haven't been made available to us.
Right.
In my particular workshop organized with the CDNO folks and with Handy is oriented around soil nutrient analytics, and following that through to the consumer end, and what kind of sampling needs to happen in order to enable that. So I'll get the title for that in here too. Okay. Any other closing comments by people?
Yes, Damien, sorry, I got the time wrong by an hour. So we can move the wine ontology topic to another time. I'm so sorry.
Okay, sorry, who's talking there? I can't.
This is Sarah talking.
Surat. Okay, right, Surat. All right, so if you're able to come in next month, I'll send you out a link.
Thank you.
We could just.
I might be in a different time zone next month, but I try to make sure that I will get the time zone right this time. Sorry, everyone. I'm Sarah. I work at Elixir in Europe, and I did a little bit of the wine project with Damien last year.
Yeah, we spent a week in Terrassa working on it. So I really have a lot to thank Surat for pushing this forward, and look forward to having you meet the rest of the gang here.
Damien, I think you need to introduce the people who are on that fermentation ontology list there for Ducho and I and Magali to Surat, so we can begin to coalesce these various perspectives on fermentation and food.
Yes, Surat, how about we have a one-on-one convo? And
yeah, I sent my son away because I thought I would. It's 5:30 in England right now, and I thought, oh God, what am I going to do with my son?
Right.
So I have an hour now.
Okay, well, I'm happy to talk with you right now, and we'll let the rest go off to their other earthly duties.
Yeah.
So thank you all, and this is really revving up. Lots of excitement. I'll get back to you, Kat, about whether we want to do this in February or not, but I'll send out the schedule first, the schedule proposal. So it's been really great. Thank you all, and have a good week. Have a good month.
Ciao,
bye.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye bye. See you next month.
Everyone.
Ciao tutti.
Ciao tutti.
All right, Surat.
So sorry.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah, so I must apologize. I haven't got a lot done since we last saw each other.
Me neither.
But I can revive some of the conversation at Elixir, because I think the French groups are still very interested in taking this on.
Okay. So here I am. I'm trying to stop my share and stop the recording.